Well, we're back. This is our 18th episode of the
Hello.
Weird Human podcast, and I'm obviously with this incredible lady, author. I can't even begin to tell you. Sort of, worked in medicine. Just the most resilient woman I know. So, Kay, welcome to the Weird Human podcast. It's amazing to have you here with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much for having me on this broadcast. I was actually watching all your episodes and I was thinking, wow, what a difference you're creating. And it's an honor and a privilege to be on this podcast today. And I do hope that I'll be able to enrich your viewers and
Oh
I'll be
gosh.
able to inspire them.
I
Thank
have
you.
absolutely no doubt. I mean, Kay, I have no doubt. We're getting as I said, we're getting about 6,000, 7,000 viewers now. So some of the videos we've done are getting, we're sort of in the kind of 7,000 views now,
Wow.
which is amazing.
Wow.
We met at an award ceremony. You were picking up an award. It was the Masterminds Award a couple of weeks ago now. For some reason that escapes me, I was also recognised, and I'm incredibly grateful for the recognition and the praise. So what was the award that you received, Kay?
Actually, it was an author's award for my recent book, Midnight Musings. It's actually a collection of odes and codes that I've written over years. So I put it together as a visual poetry, which is a combination of photography, quotations, and poetry.
And I'm now privileged enough to get those kind of quotes in the morning. So you send them to me every morning. I'm just like, it makes my day. Honestly,
Thank you.
My day. And then we've had a couple of conversations, and I've kind of fallen in love with you, to be honest. I mean, absolutely fallen in love with you. So
thank you.
It's really, it's kind of so. And I think back to my word earlier about being resilient, I think it's so amazing. So perhaps you could just share a little bit about some of your story, because I think it's so useful. Most people believe that they are unique in their kind of struggle with life. And I think I think this is really quite a sad state of affairs. I definitely struggle with life. I'm fighting it every day. I kind of my kind of view is, attack life. It's going to kill me anyway. So I'm constantly kind of attacking. I think sometimes people just feel that, Andrew's kind of got it sorted. He knows what he's doing. He's okay. But genuinely, I'm not. And I'm kind of with Kay today. And I think I kind of sense the same thing. So it's not so much how many times you get knocked over. It's more about how many times you kind of pick yourself up. And Kay is a real shining beacon of kind of repeatedly getting up. So perhaps you could tell me a little bit about your story, Kay.
Thank you. Where do I begin is a very interesting thing. But so I come from a very conservative family in India. So when I say conservative, it's that orthodox conservative family, which basically is into a lot of, the rights and wrongs of how the society norms are set. So since I was a little kid, I grew up there. I was there until about 15 and a half, and I've always been a rebel. So it was always why, what, how, when, where. So it was these 5 W's always. And I think that is basically what always kept me curious. So I have grown up as a very rebellious kid, a tomboyish kind of kid, never, basically following the norms of the society, so to say. And I had a very educated mother who had a PhD in Hindi, and she also had in English literature and Tamil, 3 languages, and the woman was just amazing. Back in those days when education was not okay, not to that extent for women, she fought and she actually educated herself to a point where it was commendable. So to me, she was my role model. So I would ask questions, and she was very kind enough to guide me and not shoot me down, very importantly. So as I grew up, 15 and a half, actually, she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So,
Before we go there, because I think can we just rewind a tiny bit, because I think that's so important, because, what do you think happens then? So I think parents are very good at kind of like supporting and guiding and encouraging their offspring in the majority of times. I would definitely put my parents into your parents category, very supportive, very encouraging, very loving. When it wasn't going to plan, they were kind of like diving into help. So, but for some reason, work parents don't tend to be so supportive and caring. So when I talk about work parents, I talk about my kind of bosses, or we have bosses who are disrespectful to us. So what do you think changes between the personality that we show up at work and the personality we are with our families. Where's the kind of disconnect there, Kay?
This is exactly where I think we have to make the difference. One of the things that I have learned, and I have I've basically implicated it into my own lives, and I've applied it, is be professional in your personal lives too, please.
Yes.
Be professional in your personal life. When you learn to be professional, you will continue to be, whether you are in your personal life or how is it different? Why is it any different? So if you are not going to run your house as a haphazard pigsty, don't do it in the office, and vice versa. Right? Yeah. So I think we need to be able to define ourselves as human beings first. Be empathetic, whether it is towards our children or towards our employees. So technically, when you look at being a leader or a manager or part of a system that is very organized, like the corporate sector, technically speaking, you also have children. They are young. They've come out of colleges. You're mentoring them. You're training them. You're dealing with them. So it's the same emotion. How is it any different? It's not different.
I'm going to give you a virtual Stotts hug here, because I think it's so. I know this is massively inappropriate, but I just kind of feel it's so important, because when are people going to kind of get that? Because everything I've learned, right or wrong, okay, right or wrong, everything I've learned is basically, so I've seen my bosses, and sometimes I've had incredible bosses, yeah, and sometimes I've had the most
horrendous ones.
Bosses, yeah. And you just think, oh my gosh, how do these people who are horrendous bullies, harassing you, ignoring you, how do they believe that that's motivating to their employees?
Yes, very much. So what I do believe is, I think there is a problem, right? So coming from the culture that I come from, so parents end up having this God complex. Can we get rid of it, please? It's a God complex. Yeah, it's a God complex where you think you never do anything wrong. Parents can never do anything wrong. And I am the first mother who says, I have wronged, I have made mistakes, and I'm sorry for it. Yesterday was my son's birthday, and that's the message I sent to him. I'm sure I have disappointed you as a mother, just like you have disappointed me as a son. Can we own up to our mistakes and say, we are also learning? We never became a parent before. We never became bosses before. So we are learning every day, just like you're learning to be a parent, you're learning to be a manager, you're learning to be a leader. So you started at the lower level, and then so there is change management happening constantly, from a child to a young lady, to a career woman, to a mother, to a grandmother, to a leader, to everything. Aren't we evolving each day? So we need to be able to have open minds to accept people that they started where we did someday. So if I was a child and I did not like what my parents said, why would I be a bad parent?
Because you learn because you observe the behavior, and you can decide. And this is really, I said in my career, I've seen some abhorrent behavior. So I watch people and I think, gosh, when I'm in charge, if I'm ever, lucky enough to be leading people, if I'm ever lucky enough to be working alongside other people, the person I want to be is the person who I'd like to follow. It's not going to be this kind of very arrogant, rude, never makes mistakes. It's got to be the person who is listening, is asking questions, is creating a safe environment, is allowing people to, allowing people to fail. I think that's a really important point, right?
Very much.
It's the same with I have 2 children. You have a son. How many children do you have? Okay?
I do two of them, one daughter and one son. Yeah.
So snap. We're in the same.
We're in the same gang. Yeah. Yes.
I think isn't that amazing? Because I get the feeling that we get to experience
from our children
the whole life. Because I've got a beautiful young man in my life, but they're not young.
Right.
I'm very old, but I've got a beautiful young man, Harry, and a beautiful daughter, Georgia. They're on their kind of journeys, and I suppose people often say to me, you're and this is going to sound a bit sycophantic, so please forgive me. But people kind of say, your kids they're both employed, they're both qualified, they've got through their kind of university, they're kind of part of society now. How did you kind of achieve that? And they're so kind of grounded. And I always say to my answer is the same answer when I kind of talk about team members. It's exactly the same. It's like, I want them to have a go. I do, like you probably, Kay. I have an opinion. on stuff, and that's my opinion. It's probably it's born out of experiences, but it's not necessarily the right thing. It's not necessarily right. So I kind of feel that we should let other people experiment and learn through experience, as opposed to always giving the answer. So if I'm the kind of God complex, dad, or God complex boss who's always right and sort of like directing, what I'm actually doing is producing
exactly
kind of
you're antagonizing them.
Yeah, they just become they kind of sort of they almost become dependent on you, so they become over dependent, so they can't make their own minds up. So we've got to be a bit more comfortable helping people feel a bit more comfortable with failure, a bit more comfortable.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very, very much. Very much. And I think, we all need to remember that whether it is parenting or leadership, it has to be a synergistic relationship. It cannot be a parasitic one.
Gosh, wow, it's so deep. But it's a synergy, as opposed to parasitic. Because I think that's the other thing. I mean, I can't sort of name too many names, but I know friends and family who have 55-year-old children still living at home with them, right? So I know parents who have 55, 60-year-old children living at home. They've never left home, and I kind of question the parents, because it's like, that's quite parasitic, because what have you done to that individual? You haven't really allowed that individual to get out there and explore the world, right? I'm not saying that they're right or wrong, just an observation, but it's scary.
Yes, it is, right? So for me, I was also a single mother. So hence, I made the decision to send my daughter out to the US when she was 17. I sent her out when I was 17.
That's brave. How did, because you can't really, that's very, very, I mean, that must have been, tell me about that. Tell me about that experience.
Yes. Well, that was an experience that I think, sometimes that has made me much more stronger. So again, the society is not very kind to women who are single. So if you are a divorcee, you are quote unquote characterless. So I have been through all that, because I grew up in the United States. So I came back in '96. And so I came back as an entrepreneur. I did not come back, so I was a lab technologist, came back as an entrepreneur at 27. Right. So when I came back, and I was very successful, and then marriage happened, and 16 years it lasted. It did not, go down fast. But when it did happen, and when we had to separate ways because we're not synergistic. We were not being, I do not think that, because I cannot always say that a man is wrong, because I wouldn't say that. I'm sure that I was probably not the right wife and he was not the right husband. Can we agree to disagree? Can we agree to say that it's possible that we were just not right for each other? And that's okay. That's okay. And it's important to speak about taboo subjects. And in India, it is still taboo. So I was definitely, outcast. I went through all those things. I had unnecessary advances because I was the corporate. So I still remember there was this one particular time when I had my own business. It was my fourth venture, and I had applied for funding. And when I went into this financial institution, it was approved by the chairman, but the local regional manager looked into my file and then my face, and he said, "Don't you have a man controlling you that you have come into the marketplace?"
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
That's so bad.
Yes, but it happens, right? But did it sort of bring me down and say, "Oh my God, did I sit and cry about it?" No, I threw the file back at his face and I said, "I don't want your loan. I'll do it myself." And I walked out. So it's important not to judge yourself or put yourself in a situation because the person opposite of you is being nasty, or he's being less of a man or a less of a woman. I will not say it is just men, because the best of friends I've had have been men. As much as I've had problem with them, I've had greatest experiences with them. I've never had girlfriends in my life. I've always had men as friends. And my partners who stand by me today, believing in me in my sixth venture, are both amazing men because of whom I stand here in the UAE. So they're always wrong. So for me, I find it extremely pseudo and hypocritical when women empowerment is talked about. I'm sorry to say that. I'm sure there are a lot of women who would love to shoot me, but women empowerment is all about walking with a man, not behind him, not ahead of him, being his strength and him being your strength.
Equal partners.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we were
Yeah.
we were chatting last week to the
Yeah.
guys from Harvard University. It's the same thing. It's about, let's play to our strengths. Let's
Yes. Yes.
recognize the. I mean, one of the favorite things, I love these people, but one of my favorite. They often, when they talk about conflict or trying to understand different cultures or each other, we talk about. I mean, a lot of people we're working with always saying, "Oh, you don't really understand us, Gary, or you don't understand us, Stotts, and understand kind of where we're coming from. Our culture is very different to your culture," and we have that kind of conversation. But in reality, in essence, we're the same. If you take a strand of your DNA and you compare it to a strand of mine, you're a beautiful woman, I'm a handsome man. We take those two strands and we put them together. They're almost identical, right? We're 99.999% the same.
Exactly.
We're not
We just make part of a whole. God did not create us to be against each other. He made us to be for each other, and it's man for mankind, not man against mankind. And when I say man, it's a generic term, not as in man. So I think that we are born here with a purpose. We have our script, and we need to play our parts to be strong individuals who can leave behind a legacy for our generations, not to be despicable. Right. So as a leader, you need to imbibe tolerance. You need to imbibe acceptance. You need to imbibe non-judgmental, beliefs. You need to respect the other person. You need to have empathy. You need to have compassion. You need to have so much. And a woman comes as a complete package also because she has the capability of being emotional as even a woman, a mother, caretaker, and all those things. And hence, she adds value to the boardroom. She does not lessen the value, she adds value to the boardroom. But does that mean that she has to demean a man? No. Have there been biases? Has there been inequality over a period of time? Yeah, we have lived in patriarchal societies. It has happened. But can we say that we have never been given an opportunity? Hey, I'm sitting here. Why would I say that?
Yeah.
I have two men who have invested in me and they've made me the face of the organization, and I hold the majority stake in the company. So that goes to show that, no, they're not against me, they're with me, but I need to also walk with them, not against them. Right? So, and I think we also have this victimized complexes, right? So I cannot play victim saying, oh, I'm a single mom, oh, I was abused, oh, something happened. No. I'm not going to play that card, and I refuse sympathy because that's not what I'm looking for. I have become stronger every single time. So I remember.
It's so good because every single time, and we do some quite kind of cool stuff. But one of the areas I do a little bit of juggling, and there's always fascinating. And I'm sorry anyone's listening to this going hearing the story again, but the reality is it's that move. People are so quick to blame and make excuses about why they can't do something different. The juggling thing, we show people how to do it, and there's always a phase when I'm teaching anyone. I've taught tens of people to juggle, and there's always a phase in that very early on in that kind of journey of them learning it. And it's the same with almost everything that people are trying to learn. As soon as we're trying to learn, teach people to do anything. I've been educating for about 40 years now, so I've educated in lots of different spaces and in lots of different things. But if I just keep it to juggling, that one moment where someone finds it's actually quite difficult to do it, because often most things in life are quite challenging. Most people don't find learning a new thing easy, and what they tend to do, you and me are the same. I have to learn something. It's going to be difficult. It doesn't matter if it's like installing a bit of software or asking a question, whatever it is. We don't find it easy, and then what happens is that because we don't find it easy, we have to kind of justify why it's difficult.
Why?
Saying I'm too old, I'm too young, I had the wrong education, I'm white, I'm black, I'm whatever. It's mental, right? And it's just crazy. We just love those excuses.
Exactly.
So put those excuses and say, yeah, that's why, because I'm a really stupid man, and that's why I can't do it.
Yes.
Therefore, my parents were rubbish or whatever it was. So therefore, now I'm off the hook. It's not my responsibility. Yeah.
So that is the easy way out. That's the easy way out. So I remember my father was a first generation businessman, and I was very interested in business. I wanted to take a part of that but then he believed that only sons belonged there. He did not give me that opportunity. So, when the years do pass, the wheel does turn. And when I became the entrepreneur, and 2 times around, he said, if you want to do it now, I would help you. And I said, I don't need that now. And I said that to him. I said, because I'm already there. You should have been there when I wanted you to, and you didn't. So I'm going to reinvent this wheel, and I am going to become a CEO by myself. So I don't need a benefactor to be able to do it. Yes, it would be nice to have a sponsor. Have I had challenges? Oh, yes. Believe me, it is so difficult to get funding for a woman as opposed to a man. And I would go on record to say that, because I stand here today and I'm still having problems. Whether it's seed funding, you do the startup, those things do happen. But do we give up? No. So I remember being in a class when I was in sixth grade, and my teacher asked me, so all of us had to describe ourselves with one word. You had to relate yourself to something. So everybody, said lion, tiger, animal, this, that. And I remember saying spring.
Not dolphin.
And yeah.
I'm a dolphin. Oh dear, that cracks me up. Anyway,
yeah,
I'm about spring. Go on, hit me with spring.
Yeah, and she said, spring? Why a spring? I said, the harder you push, the higher I jump.
Oh, that is absolutely. That is. Oh my God.
Right? And think about it.
Away. I'm stealing that one. That's brilliant.
Yes, and yes, and that's one of my quotations, and I say that, be like the spring. Every time life pushes you harder down, jump higher. So the world will look at you, and everybody who did want you down, you do not have to speak, you do not have to say anything, you do not have to fight. Actions speak louder than words. Just do it, and the world will follow you. Simple. You don't have to worry about what anybody else is thinking, but what do you think about yourself? One of the most important things, I think, for each one of us, whether man or woman, we need to read our own book. We need to read ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves. We need to accept ourselves. We need to love ourselves, and we need to know ourselves better than anybody else. And when we do, we don't have to worry about what anybody else says. You keep following on your path, and the world follows you. It's as simple as that. Is it hard? It's bloody well is hard.
It is bloody. Oh my God, it's bloody. It is. That's a good word. I remember being in Florida in Disneyland, and I used the word bloody. I'm English, so when you use the word bloody, I don't wish any offense to anyone listening to this, but I remember almost the whole of Disneyland came to a standstill. It was Space Mountain. I can recall the moment very, very vividly. And I was in Space Mountain, and this American chap who was like kind of queue combing and managing the queue as we were kind of going up to the ride. It was about a 15-hour wait, I think. No, wasn't 15 hours, but about an hour wait for this ride. And I remember this guy come along, and I kind of engaged him, and he kind of worked out that I was English. Please forgive me for being English. That's another story. But anyway, he then said, "Oh, can you say bloody?" And I was at that time I wasn't particularly well travelled, and he said, and I was like slightly confused with him. So I said, "Well, what do you mean? What's so special about bloody?" And he just burst into laughter, and he said, "Well, no, that's absolutely perfect." He goes, "Hang on a second." He goes, "Could you do it even better? Could you say bloody hell?" Yeah. So I said, "Yeah, I can do bloody hell." He goes, No, wait, time out, just wait a minute. I need to just get everyone's attention. So he pretty much stopped about 1,000 people in the queue, and he's like, "Everyone listen, we've got a limey here. There's a limey in the queue, and the limey is basically going to entertain us for a few minutes while we're waiting for the ride. And basically, cue Andrew." And I went, "Bloody hell!" And he just, and honestly, 1,000 people just started laughing and cheering. That's great.
I think those are terminologies that will always stick with us, I believe, because your education system. So because in India you follow the British system, and then when I went to the US, it was the American. So I can actually, depending on who I'm speaking to, I can change my dialect. So if I'm speaking with my daughter or anybody in the US, it would be the slang, "Hey, how you doing?" It happens automatically. And then if it's in India, it's, yeah.
Because people, when I'm in the US, it's always like, "Are you serious?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'm deadly serious." And it's also the things so strange, things like pants. I mean, there's a great story with when I worked for Hilton International. We were talking about uniforms, and there was a lady in this. It was a lady from the US, and we were in this kind of boardroom, and we were discussing uniform standards and purchasing new uniforms for Hilton, UK and Ireland. It's a few years ago now, and we're having this very long, torturous, tedious debate around what the uniform should be. And eventually, this conversation got the better of this American lady who was very frustrated. And it was probably her and maybe 15 or 16 men in this room. And so she stood up and she said, "Guys, I've had enough of this conversation. I don't care what they're wearing, but they ain't wearing pants." Yeah. And of course, there were 16 men who just started obviously wetting ourselves in laughter. And she's there going, "Why is that funny? Why is that funny?" And everyone was just like, "You don't know why that's funny." Because obviously, if you don't know that, the reason was because she was suggesting that the ladies who work with us wouldn't wear underwear. So of course, all the men were happy to sign up to that particular. So it's strange, isn't it, how those kind of words now.
Yes.
When I say, "Oh, nice pants," those words now part of my lexicon. Yeah, so I use a lot of Americanisms that I use. I wonder whether that's a common thing with other kind of expats as well.
Oh, yes, it is. It is the same thing. Yeah, because I remember, as I transitioned across from one business to another, one of them that I ran was a medical transcription company with 75 people. So during that time, I actually, did an entire training program on Americanisms and phonetics. So I have designed a program for Americanisms to be able to sort of learn. So same thing happens when you go to the US and you are not aware of the lingo that they generally use. Oh, believe me, I have said thank you to things I shouldn't be saying thank you to when I first went there. So yeah, that happens. But it's been a journey. Everything, I think today, who I am, where I am, and how I am is because of that entire journey that I have traveled, from India to the US. And then, yes, I was in UK for a very brief amount of time because the Commonwealth had invited me for a woman entrepreneurship program. So I have represented there. So to me, it has always been, how can I empower women and men? I will not say, because I was part of a university as assistant director. I have mentees. I have mentored many students, and I continue to. I've got about 100 plus godchildren across the world. Yeah, so they have taken me to be their godmom because I am uncomplicated, as they say. I am cool and uncomplicated.
You are cool and you're very uncomplicated and you are very inspirational, which is absolutely amazing. And it's just, I think that's a real kind of credit to you, because one of the such an incredible human being. So when I'm talking to you, my love affair is continuing. So I'm kind of like really just very, very, very curious about this person. So, where do you get your energy from? So we've had that kind of I love the analogy of the spring being pushed down. So you just tackle everything, you're so enthusiastic. So where does that what would you attribute that to?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with my spiritual connection. So people have this way of going around saying spirituality as a fashionable fad statement. It's not to me. It seriously is that. So I am connected with the universe. I'm connected with the Supreme. And I have always believed, because I lost my mother at 17. So I had nobody else on my side. So I would go either to a church or a mosque. I would sit there and just, do my talking or meditation to find my answers, because there was nobody else to guide me. So I believe the universe has guided me, and I've got great people who have inspired me. But one thing that always stuck with me was never give up. So the only choice, I always say that, sometimes the only choice in life is to be strong. So for me, the only choice I have is to be strong. So if I lie down saying, oh, I can't do this, who else is going to do it for me? Nobody else. So kick yourself, get out of bed, do what you have to, because you may not have tomorrow. And I've been through that too. So I almost lost it at COVID. I almost kicked the bucket. So I guess God decided, yeah. So the second wave, I was very serious. I almost didn't make it. So I have had a heart condition where, I couldn't have made it. I've gone through a whole lot. So every single time it was like, nah, he doesn't want me around there. I'm going to make a mess out of heaven and hell. So he's going to leave me here.
Oh, I'm glad he did. in all honesty, because first of all, I would not have met you. Because I have these I have these kind of 4 words. When you were speaking, I have these kind of 4 words, which I think back to our kind of comment earlier about self-awareness. So it's about seeing it, kind of taking personal responsibility for it, finding a solution to it, and actually then, doing it, taking action on it. I think so many people really kind of struggle with that.
Yes.
We're actually that's I think that's probably the fastest 30 minutes in my entire life.
Wow.
Just the last question for you, which I'm really fascinated by, is if I because I've got this special time machine. I have a kind of weird human time machine, so I can sort of we can go together in the time machine. We can go back and we can meet the 18-year-old Kay, right? So we can where would she be? Where would Kay be when she was 18? In the US or in India?
In the US.
Whereabouts in the US was she going to be? She going to
New York. New York.
My grandparents from I have a little bit of American ancestry inside of me as well, which is beautiful. So Connecticut and Wilton, Connecticut is my kind of grandparents. But obviously, so we've got great relationships with New York. So we're in New York. Kay's 18. We're in a coffee bar and we're talking to Kay. What kind of advice would you give your former self on how to tackle life, Kay?
Well, when I was 18, I was already tackling life because I was a proxy mother to 3 children.
Wow.
So my mother was dead and she had made me promise that I would take care of the kids and make sure that they reached where they wanted to. So I promised her I would. So at that point of time, for the 18-year-old Kavita, it was get to where you need to be, do what you have to, don't complain. And do not depend on anybody to do it for you but yourself. So I've had support from friends, definitely not always from family, but I have never given up. I do not believe in giving up. Every time that life tries to destroy me, I have beaten it. And I continue to. I think it's because I have been inspired by many, many people. And my current journey here in the UAE is inspired by my partner, who's also, I've got a poem dedicated to him in my book. He is the master of my soul because he has inspired me and I think reconnected me back to where I am 18 years ago. Or when I was 18 rather. So it always has been people who have inspired me in different ways and given me the energy to believe in myself, even if I remotely thought of giving up. So I have never been given a chance to give up because people were always inspired and motivated. And they're, Kavita, if you're going to say that, what are we going to say? So I never had the chance to complain or let myself down or let anybody else down. So that, I think, in itself has been the energy. I've got a great spiritual guide. Throughout my life, I've always been connected in a very different manner, and I've always been that young lady who's way too wise and the old lady who's way too young. So it's been a combination of both. So I have never kept age as a factor. I've never thought I am so many numbers, I'm so many years old. It has always been, I've grown with my children. So if my daughter is 25, my heart, my soul is 25. My mind is 25. Yeah, I grew up with them.
Oh, and do you know what? That is kind of that for me is one of the great secrets, isn't it? So that kind of piece, I would call it reverse mentoring, because I think my 2 greatest educators are Harry and George, because Harry and George, George is my daughter, but Harry and George, they're great educators because I think they keep me in tune, with how I'm learning and growing. And this is something I kind of worry about because I'm getting a bit older myself, and I'm conscious that if I lose connection to kind of what's happening today, and I'm hoping that my children will keep being my educators, and that kind of reverse mentoring. And it's the same with team members. The more that we're learning.
Yes.
Old men like me, we're in sort of senior roles making decisions.
You need to stop saying that. You need to stop saying that.
I'm owning it. I'm owning it. I'm quite proud. I'm quite proud I've made it this far. Look at my grayness. I'm quite proud.
It can be wisdom. It doesn't necessarily have to be age. I got gray at 16, so don't complain.
Okay. Oh God. We are out of time. I'm going to need to. Oh gosh, I'm going to give you another hug. I love you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
Guys, if you have questions for myself or for Kay, we'd obviously love to read those in the chat as well. Getting lots of people watching these videos, which is actually very flattering personally, and I'm sure it's for Kay as well. So thank you for engaging with us and asking those questions.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here. And very importantly, I think I would pass on one message to everybody. Evolve as a human being, empower, enrich, educate, and excel in excellence, and be the center of excellence. Don't build them. Be the center of excellence for human beings in this world.
Be it yourself.
So,
okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Have a nice afternoon. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.